You wake up at 3 a.m., your mind racing with thoughts you can't control. The presentation next week. The relationship that's falling apart. The bills that keep mounting. The future that feels increasingly uncertain. Your chest tightens, your breathing becomes shallow, and suddenly you're trapped in a prison of your own making. Prison built from worries that may never even come to pass. But what if I told you that over 2,000 years ago, a group of ancient philosophers discovered something extraordinary? They found a way to break free from this mental prison, to live with unshakable peace even in the face of chaos, loss, and uncertainty. They called themselves Stoics, and their insights were so profound that they influenced emperors, slaves, and everyone in between. Today we descend into the hidden chambers of the mind to uncover the most powerful secret of human psychology. The realization that your suffering is not caused by what happens to you, but by the stories you tell yourself about what happens to you. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you believe about worry, control, and the nature of human resilience. And the final revelation will explore has the power to transform not just how you think, but how you experience reality itself. Before we can understand how to stop worrying, we must first confront an uncomfortable truth about the human condition. We are the only species on Earth that tortures itself with imaginary futures and haunting pasts, while a gazelle being chased by a lion experiences pure, immediate fear. Once the threat is gone, it returns to grazing peacefully. But humans? We carry our fears like invisible chains, replaying past failures and rehearsing future disasters in endless, exhausting loops. Think about your own mind for a moment. How much of your mental energy is spent not on the present moment, but on things that have already happened or might never happen? How often do you find yourself creating elaborate scenarios of potential catastrophe, playing out conversations that will never occur, or reliving moments of embarrassment from years past? This is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus called the tyranny of the mind, our tendency to become prisoners of our own thoughts. But here's what most people don't realize. This mental suffering is not inevitable. It's not hardwired into human nature. It's a habit, and like all habits, it can be broken. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover. There is a fundamental difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. It's the natural response to loss, disappointment, or physical discomfort. But suffering? Suffering is optional. It's the story we tell ourselves about the pain, the meaning we assign to it, and the resistance we create against what is. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But what did he mean by this? Was he suggesting we simply ignore reality, pretend that bad things don't happen? Not at all. The Stoics were not naive optimists or emotional suppressors. They were pragmatic realists who understood that while we cannot control the storms of life, we can learn to navigate them with grace, wisdom, and inner peace. But before we can explore how they did this, we must first understand what worry really is and why it has such a powerful grip on the human psyche. Because what you're about to learn about the nature of worry will fundamentally change how you see your own thoughts. Let me ask you something. When you worry, what exactly are you doing? Most people would say they're thinking about problems or preparing for the worst. But the Stoics saw something much more subtle and profound happening. They recognized that worry is not problem solving, it's a form of negative visualization gone wrong. A mental rehearsal of scenarios we desperately want to avoid. Here's the paradox. The more we worry about something, the more we mentally rehearse it, and the more we rehearse it, the more real and probable it becomes in our minds. We create detailed mental movies of failure, rejection, loss, and disaster, playing them over and over until they feel more vivid than reality itself. But what if I told you that the Stoics discovered a way to turn this process on its head? They developed a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. But this wasn't about dwelling in negativity or becoming pessimistic. It was something far more sophisticated, a systematic method of inoculating the mind against suffering by facing our fears consciously rather than letting them control us unconsciously. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher and advisor to emperors, would regularly practice voluntary discomfort. He would sleep on the floor, eat simple food, and wear rough clothing, not as self-punishment, but as training. He was teaching his mind that even if he lost everything, he would still be okay. He was building resilience by choice, rather than waiting for life to force it upon him. This is where most people misunderstand Stoicism. They think it's about becoming emotionally numb, suppressing feelings, or accepting defeat. But the Stoics were not trying to eliminate emotions. They were trying to eliminate the unnecessary suffering that comes from our resistance to life's inevitable challenges. Think about a time when you were dreading something, a difficult conversation, a medical test, a job interview. How much mental energy did you spend in that state of dread? How many hours, days, or even weeks did you suffer in anticipation of something that might last only minutes? The Stoics realized that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality, and they developed tools to break this pattern. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that cuts to the very core of human psychology. The Stoics discovered that worry is fundamentally about control, or more accurately, about the illusion of control. We worry because we believe on some unconscious level that our worry serves a purpose, that it somehow prepares us or protects us from future harm. But what if this entire premise is wrong? What if worry doesn't prepare us for anything, but actually weakens our ability to respond effectively when challenges arise? And what if the key to inner peace lies not in controlling outcomes, but in understanding the profound difference between what is within our control and what is not? This distinction, which the Stoics called the dichotomy of control, is perhaps the most transformative concept in all of philosophy. And when you truly understand it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, everything changes. Imagine for a moment that you could divide everything in your life into two categories. In the first category, you would place everything that is completely within your control, things you can directly influence through your choices and actions. In the second category, you would place everything that is outside your control, things that happen regardless of what you want or how hard you try to influence them. Now, here's the question that will change your life. Which category contains more items? If you're like most people, you probably believe that many things fall into the first category. Your health, your relationships, your career, your reputation, your financial security. Surely these are things you can control, right? The Stoics would challenge this assumption completely. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of the most influential teachers in history, made a radical claim. There are only three things that are truly within your control: your judgments, your desires, and your actions. Everything else, literally everything else, falls outside your sphere of control. Your health? You can influence it, but you cannot control it. Disease, accidents, and genetic factors operate beyond your will. Your relationships? You can be loving, honest, and supportive, but you cannot control how others respond to you. Your career? You can work hard and make good decisions, but economic conditions, office politics, and countless other variables remain outside your influence. This might sound disempowering at first, but the Stoics discovered something extraordinary. When you truly accept what you cannot control, you become infinitely more powerful in the areas where you actually do have control. Think about it this way. How much mental energy do you currently spend trying to control things that are fundamentally outside your control? How often do you worry about other people's opinions, external circumstances, or future events that may never happen. What would happen if you redirected all of that energy toward the things you can actually influence? Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in his private meditations, put it this way: confine yourself to the present. Not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present moment is the only place where your actual power resides. The only place where you can make choices, take actions, and shape your experience. But here's where it gets even more profound. The Stoics didn't just teach acceptance of external circumstances. They taught something called amor fati, which means love of fate. They believed that true wisdom comes not just from accepting what happens to you, but from embracing it as necessary for your growth and development. This is not passive resignation. This is not giving up. This is recognizing that resistance to what has already happened is the source of most human suffering. It's understanding that every challenge, every setback, every disappointment contains within it the seeds of wisdom, strength, and character development. Seneca expressed this beautifully. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. What if the thing you're currently worrying about, the situation you're trying desperately to avoid or control, is actually the exact experience you need to become who you're meant to be? But there's still one more layer to this philosophy, one final insight that ties everything together. Because the ultimate question is not just how to stop worrying, but how to live with such profound acceptance and inner strength that worry becomes unnecessary. And this brings us to the most mysterious aspect of Stoic philosophy, the cultivation of what they called the view from above. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're rising above your current location. Higher and higher you go until you can see your entire neighborhood, then your city, then your country. Continue ascending until you can see the entire earth, a small blue marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. Keep going until you can see our solar system, then our galaxy, then the billions of other galaxies stretching out into infinity. From this perspective, how significant are the things you're currently worried about? How important is that argument you had last week, that mistake you made at work, or that uncertain future event that's been keeping you awake at night? This is what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above, a practice of mentally zooming out to gain cosmic perspective on our daily concerns. But this wasn't just a mental exercise to make problems seem smaller. It was a profound meditation on the nature of existence itself and our place within the grand tapestry of time and space. The Stoics understood that most human suffering comes from taking our personal dramas too seriously, from believing that our individual concerns are more significant than they actually are in the broader context of existence. They didn't minimize human experience, but they put it in proper perspective. Consider this. You are living on a planet that has existed for 4.5 billion years. Your species has been around for roughly 300,000 years. Recorded history spans about 5,000 years. Your own life, in the context of cosmic time, is barely a blink. And yet, within that brief blink, you have the extraordinary opportunity to experience consciousness, to love, to learn, to grow, and to contribute something meaningful to the world. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man on earth, regularly reminded himself of this temporal perspective. Remember how brief life is, how vast the universe. What matters today will be forgotten tomorrow. But here's the paradox. Recognizing the temporary nature of our existence doesn't make life meaningless, it makes it precious. When you truly understand that your time here is limited and unrepeatable, every moment becomes sacred. Every choice becomes significant. Every opportunity to act with virtue, courage, and wisdom becomes a gift. The Stoics discovered that when you stop trying to make your life perfect and instead focus on making it meaningful, worry naturally dissolves. When you stop trying to control outcomes and instead focus on controlling your responses, anxiety loses its power over you. When you stop running from difficulty and instead embrace it as a teacher, you become unshakable. This is what Seneca meant when he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." True wealth is not having everything you want, but wanting nothing you don't have. True security is not in external circumstances, but in your ability to respond to any circumstance with wisdom and grace. But perhaps the most profound realization of all is this: the peace you're seeking, the freedom from worry and anxiety that you crave, is not something you need to achieve or acquire. It's something you already possess, buried beneath layers of mental conditioning and habitual thinking patterns. The Stoics called this our inner citadel, a place of unassailable peace that exists within every human being, regardless of external circumstances. It's the part of you that remains calm in chaos, that finds strength in adversity, that discovers joy even in the midst of sorrow. And now we arrive at the ultimate truth, the revelation that has the power to transform everything. You are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are not your fears or your anxieties or your endless mental chatter about past and future. Are the consciousness that observes these mental phenomena. You are the awareness that witnesses thoughts arise and pass away like clouds in the sky. And just as clouds cannot stain the sky, your worries cannot touch the deepest part of who you are. The Stoics understood this profound truth. Suffering happens when we identify with our thoughts, when we believe that we are our mental content, rather than recognizing that we are the space in which mental content appears. When you realize that you are not the voice in your head, but the listener, everything changes. This is why Marcus Aurelius could face plagues, wars, and political turmoil while maintaining inner peace. This is why Epictetus could transform from slave to sage. This is why Seneca could find joy even while facing exile and death. They had discovered their true identity not as victims of circumstance, but as the unchanging awareness that witnesses all circumstances. So how do you access this inner citadel? How do you stop identifying with worry and start identifying with the peace that lies beneath it? The Stoics offer us a path. First, practice the discipline of perception. When you notice worry arising, ask yourself, is this thought helping me or harming me? Is this worry about something within my control or outside my control? Am I responding to reality or to my story about reality? Second, embrace the discipline of desire. Instead of wanting reality to be different than it is, practice wanting what happens to happen. This doesn't mean becoming passive, but rather aligning your will with the natural flow of existence. Third, cultivate the discipline of action. Focus all your energy on what you can actually influence: your choices, your responses, your character development. Let everything else unfold as it will. And finally, remember the discipline of reflection. Each evening, review your day not to judge yourself, but to learn. Ask, where did I act with wisdom? Where did I get caught in worry? What can I learn from today's experiences? The ancient Stoics had a saying, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In the context of worry, this means the best response to a chaotic, unpredictable world is not to become chaotic and reactive yourself, but to become an island of calm, wisdom, and purposeful action. You have spent so much of your life believing that happiness comes from external circumstances aligning with your preferences. But what if happiness, real, lasting peace, comes from something else entirely? What if it comes from recognizing that you already have everything you need to be content, right here, right now? The worries that torment you, the fears that keep you awake, the anxiety that follows you through your days, these are not your enemies. They are teachers, pointing you toward the places where you have not yet learned to let go, where you have not yet learned to trust in your own resilience and the unfolding of life itself. So here is your choice. You can continue to live as a prisoner of your own thoughts, constantly at war with reality, exhausting yourself by trying to control the uncontrollable. Or you can step into the freedom that the Stoics discovered, the freedom that comes from aligning yourself with wisdom rather than worry, with acceptance rather than resistance, with love rather than fear. The path is simple, though not easy. It requires practice, patience, and above all, the courage to let go of the illusion that worry serves you. Because in the end, you will discover what the ancient Stoics knew. The very thing you thought was protecting you was actually imprisoning you. And the peace you've been searching for has been inside you all along. The choice is yours. The wisdom is available. The time is now. Welcome to your inner citadel. Welcome to the philosophy of unshakable peace. Thanks for watching. Share this video with someone who needs it.